Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Well, it's finally here. It's Crocktober. I have at the last minute, today's actually October 3rd, and I have decided that I would like to participate in Crocktober this year. And since I didn't start early enough and plan out very well, I'm gonna try to get one crockpot recipe out a week. My family doesn't love crockpot recipes, but if you don't know, I work at an elementary school and I work 4 10-hour days. And right now I'm actually on our fall break. But next week when I go back to work, I love just throwing something in the crockpot in the morning and then having it be ready to go by the time I get home from work. So today is actually a nice fall rainy day here in Arizona, which we don't get many of. And I'm gonna start some dinner in the crockpot. Come along. So I have some beef stew meat here. This is actually a London broil that my husband Clayton chopped up for me for stew meat. And I am going to make like beef tips. I'm actually gonna go ahead and put some flour and seasonings in another gallon-sized bag, and I'm going to take the meat out of here, which sounds kind of silly because it's already in a bag, but this is very wet, and I want this mixture to be dry. I'm gonna put the chunks of beef in the flour mixture. I'm going to brown them in my cast iron skillet, which I already have heating up. Excuse my dirty stove. And then I'm gonna put it in the crock pot with some onions and some seasonings, and we're gonna let it cook low and slow for a couple of hours. I have some leftover mashed potatoes from another meal, and then I will just have to cook a vegetable. So let's get this started. So the first thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and add some extra virgin olive oil to my hot cast iron skillet. I'm just gonna coat the bottom so I can brown all the beef. All right, in this bag I have 1 cup of flour. I'm gonna add a teaspoon of black pepper, a teaspoon of granulated onion, and a teaspoon of salt. You add whatever seasonings your family likes and the amounts that you like. We really like black pepper, especially on beef, so I'll be adding a whole teaspoon of each into this bag. All right, now that my seasonings are in there, I will just give this bag a quick shake. Kind of knead it around with my hands. Make sure all the seasonings are mixed into that flour really well. But I just browned 2 sides, and that's good enough. You want to cook that flour flavor out of it. So, all right, next batch. Now, browning the beef, I just want to say, is an extra step that you don't have to do. You could throw the beef right into the crock pot without browning it. I just find that it tastes better this way, and I've kind of got out of the habit of doing these little extra steps that make our meals more memorable and, you know, a little extra tasty. My husband likes to say the little extra steps, you know, it might take a little longer, but it makes you taste the love that you put into cooking. And what's the point of cooking if, you know, you're not doing it because you want someone to enjoy what you're cooking? I hope that made sense. Anyway, keep on browning. All right, I'm also gonna take this small onion and chop it up so that I can brown it up in the pan a little bit, add a little extra flavor, and throw that in the crock pot as well. All right, I wiped out my pan. There was just some overly brown flour that was left in there, and I didn't want it to give my dinner a bad taste. So I'm gonna take that onion. I'm gonna just cook cook it in a little bit of olive oil, and then I will throw it in the crock pot with the meat. I also added in some garlic. I am just about out, but I'm trying to get every little bit out of this big Sam's Club container that I can, so that'll be another tasty ingredient in here. All right, there is my meat and onions and garlic. I am going to add both of these packets. I have a Great Value brown gravy and this McCormick mushroom gravy. I'm also going to add, I don't know if you can see that, 2 cups of water. All right, I got those packets in there. I'm just gonna mix this up a little bit. I already have my crock pot on high. It smells good already. All right, I'm gonna leave it on high I'm gonna leave it on high for about, I don't know, 4.5 hours. All right, I have decided to make some rolls to go with our crockpot dinner tonight. I have 3 cups of unbleached flour in my mixing bowl, and I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of active dry yeast. All right, now this recipe calls for 1/3 cup of sugar. Now, I don't care to put sugar in my bread recipes, except maybe a tablespoon or so, just to activate the yeast. So I am altering this recipe a little bit. This is a 1/3 cup measuring spoon or measuring cup, and I have like 1.5 tablespoons of sugar in there. I'm going to add this just to make sure the yeast has something to, you know, like what, feed on or whatever, something to activate the yeast. I'm gonna add a teaspoon of salt. Now I have my dough hook attachment on my mixer. I'm going to just mix up those dry ingredients. All right, now I'm going to add 1.5 cups of warm milk. I just popped this in the microwave for 1 minute in this mason jar and heated it up. It calls for 2 tablespoons of melted butter, but my butter sits on the counter, so it's super soft. And it's gonna melt in that warm milk, so I'm not too worried about it. And I'm also going to add my very last egg. I need to get some more eggs at the store. Okay, now I am going to turn this on and mix it up. And after all the flour is incorporated, I am going to add 1 to 2 more cups of flour, just depending on how the dough looks. I'm gonna add it 1/2 cup at a time. Okay, here is the first 1/2 cup of flour. All right, I'm going in with my second 1/2 cup of flour. So now I have added 4 cups into this dough. All right, it is starting to form a ball, but we still need some more flour. So I'm gonna go in with another 1/2 cup of flour. Please excuse my dirty dishes over here, not for your eyes. All right, let's work that in. Ooh, all right, it is it's still pretty sticky, and it is still sticking to the bottom of the bowl down there, so I'm gonna add 1/4 cup of flour. We'll see how that does. So now I have added 4 3/4 of flour. All right, that was the perfect amount for me for today. Of course, it will be different for everyone, and depending on your weather, like I don't know if I mentioned, but today's a very rainy day, so it all changes the way your dough behaves. But this is what you want. You want it to clean the sides of the bowl, and now I'm just going to let this continue to knead for a few minutes. right, and that is what it looks like. I just pulled the hook out and shaped it into a ball. It is not sticky anymore. It looks good. I'm gonna cover it with a towel until it has doubled, and then we will make the rolls. Okay, well, surprisingly, I came in to check the crock pot and I looked at the dough and it has like tripled in like less than 15 minutes. So I'm gonna punch this down and I'm gonna go ahead and put this out on my cutting board, and I'm gonna cut it into 12 pieces. No, not 12, 24 pieces. All right, this is not going to be like an in-depth bread recipe, but I just wanted to show you. I'm just going to cut the dough in half, and then I'll cut it in half again. It said you could weigh out the dough, and it's about 2-ounce pieces of dough, but I'm not going to be that exact. I will just keep cutting each of these in half until I get 24 pieces. All right, I don't know what happened. my counting skills are not very good today, but I got 20. I'm gonna cover these with the towel again and let them rise while I go pick up my son from work. All right, here are the rolls. They cooked for about 15 minutes, and then I turned the broiler on because they didn't get very brown, so that's why their tops are so dark. All right, here's leftover mashed potatoes, the rolls, the meat and gravy in the crock pot, and I just heated up a can of green beans.
Really tasty.
Thank you, honey. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching.